Hello, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a good day. In today's video, I just want to share a few differences between Nigeria and Sweden. I've been living in Sweden now for about a year. I grew up in Nigeria and then recently moved to Sweden. So I just want to share a few differences that I've observed between the two countries, how they differ. Number one on my list is the transport system. Here in Sweden, they have buses that are run by the government in every city, and what you do is that you buy a ticket. You could either buy the single one, like this one, for 75 hours, or you buy, a full ticket, like for a month. So it depends on what your needs are. If you don't go out every day, then you might not need to buy the full a month ticket. You can also buy a 24-hour ticket or a week ticket. It just depends on your needs, depends on what you have planned. Here in Sweden, the motorcycles I see are usually for personal use, not for business. And also, I have never seen a tricycle here in Sweden. But in Nigeria, there are abundance of motorcycles, for business where you bargain with a motorcyclist and then you pay depending on where you're going to. The distance determines how much you're going to pay. It's not a fixed price, just depends on your bargaining power. Also in Nigeria, we have a lot of tricycles for business also, where you just enter into one depending on where you're going to and then you pay the fare. The bus system in Nigeria is majorly private owned, where people just have a bus, put it on the road. I understand they have a union that you have to register. You have to register with the union, and then you just start driving, and then there's no fixed price. Unlike here in Sweden, where you buy a ticket at a particular price, in Nigeria, the distance you are going to determines how much you're going to pay. And also in Nigeria, you don't have to. There's no bus schedule. Anytime you get to the bus stop, you're going to see a bus there. You just hop in and then you go your way. But here in Sweden, there's a bus schedule. You can't just jump out to the bus stop. In Sweden, you check the schedule before you move out. Let's say, for instance, you have you have to get to work by 8 o'clock. For instance, you check the bus schedule and then the schedule that fits your plan is what you go with. But in Nigeria, anytime you get to the bus stop, you're going to see a bus. But the only thing in Nigeria is that most times the buses will not move until the bus is full, and then that's just time wasting, especially if you're in a hurry. But here in Sweden, they don't wait. Once it's time for the bus to go, the bus leaves. It doesn't wait for the bus to get filled. It doesn't matter if the bus is full or not, it just moves. So in Nigeria, every bus has a conductor. What do conductors do? They basically call out to passengers to come in. They call out to let you know where the bus is going to, and also they call out each bus stops as the bus moves, so that you can know when you get to your bus stop and then you can come down, which is pretty good for when you're not really familiar with the road. But here in Sweden, there's no such thing, because every bus has a screen that shows each bus stop. So you know when you get to your bus stop and then you click on the stop button for the bus to stop. And there's also announcements for each bus stop. But before the bus approaches a particular bus stop, it should mention the bus stop. For instance, Central Station, it will be mentioned. Then you know that you're close to your bus stop. In Sweden, there are four seasons. You have the winter, spring, summer, and then the autumn. But in Nigeria, it's just two seasons. We have the rainy season and the dry season. And so while I was in Nigeria, I could wear the same clothes all year round. Honestly, even the clothes you wear in the dry season, you can wear the same clothes in the rainy season, because even the rainy season is not that cold. The difference in temperature is not really that much, so you can basically survive with your dry season clothes in the rainy season. But here in Sweden, you have to have seasonal clothes. There's clothes for winter, clothes for summer, because as the season change, the temperature also changes. So you have to dress according to the temperature. In Nigeria, I felt I basically wore slippers everywhere in Nigeria. Like I could just wear a slip on and I'm good to go throughout the day, throughout almost the whole year. Except you have a function, a party, then you have to wear heels or wear sneakers. But here in Sweden, I wear sneakers basically all through the year, because it's too cold. I wear sneakers and boots all through the year because it's very cold. It's only in the summer period I can wear my sandals or wear slippers. And then it's just unfortunate that even the summer is not even that long. Yeah, just about just 3 months or thereabouts, and then it's over. The weather becomes cold again. You have to go back to your boots and sneakers. I remember shortly after I moved to Sweden, I moved in the winter, and then one of the days I wanted to go and throw out the trash, and I was just so lazy because I didn't want to wear my boots because I didn't want to bend down to lace up and all that. I just wore my slippers and then I went out. Immediately, I opened the door that led outside to the trash house. My legs were frozen; like I could not feel my legs. By the time I was coming back from the trash house, I could not feel my legs anymore. It was that cold. So I learned a very big lesson that day. The number three difference between Nigeria and Sweden is the cold, the weather. The weather. Nigeria is warm, warm. In fact, Nigeria is warm all year round. Even in the rainy season, it's not so cold. In the rainy season, I can still wear this and go out. Like it is not the difference in temperature is not much. But here in Sweden, it is very, very cold. Even the summer in Sweden is cold for a Nigerian. I remember my first year in Sweden, my first summer. I was still wearing my sweaters all around because my body had not adjusted then. Because in the summer you have maybe 18 degrees, 20 degrees, which for me is still cold. But of course now I've adjusted. In Nigeria, for instance, no matter how low the temperature is, let's say maybe 24, 25 degrees. I'm not even sure it gets that low, but let's just assume 24, 25 degrees. And then coming here to Sweden and seeing temperature as low as minus 15, minus 20, I didn't know what to do with myself the first year. I was always dreading going out. I remember one of the days I was at the bus stop. I was coming from somewhere, and then I missed my bus, so I had to wait for the next bus. And the next bus was coming in 13 minutes, and this was in the thick of winter. My God, I was at the bus stop. I was shivering, like I was physically shivering like this. My teeth were chattering. I was shivering seriously. I was so embarrassed that day. Sweden is really, really, really cold, especially for somebody who has lived in a warm climate all their lives. When you come to Sweden, the heat, the cold is going to hit you hard. The number four difference between Sweden and Nigeria is that there is no school uniform culture here. You go to school with the clothes you have at home, the clothes in your closet. There's no such thing as school uniform. You just show up, in your normal clothes and then off you go. But in Nigeria, the school uniform is a must. My daughter's school back in Nigeria, she had about four uniforms. On Monday, it's a gown. On Tuesday, it's a blouse and a skirt. On Wednesday, it's a sportswear. Then on Thursday, they wear the uniform they wore on Tuesday. Then on Friday, they wear another sportswear. So she had four different uniforms. It just depends on the school. Some schools have just two, some have three, some have four, but you must definitely wear a school uniform if you school in Nigeria, from the primary to secondary school. Another difference, I think it's in number five now. Another difference between the two countries is that in Sweden here, school lunch is a given. Every child, when you go to school, you must be fed lunch in the school. And it's such a relief for me as a parent because I remember when I was in Nigeria, it was a constant worry. Oh, what am I going to cook for? What am I going to dish for her? What am I going to pack for her to go to school? What snack will I put in her bag and all that? But here now, I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's been sorted. She goes to school, there's snacks for her, there is food, in fact, sometimes if we even leave home very early, she goes to school and has breakfast. But in Nigeria, school lunches are not a given. It depends on the kind of school you're going to. Most schools that do it are usually very, very expensive schools. And even then, it's still not common. Kids are expected to bring their own lunch from home. When it is break time, you bring out your lunch and you eat. It's not really common for schools to serve lunches, except you're in a boarding house, where, of course, the school feeds you. In Nigeria, the school session is divided into three. We have the first term, second term, and the third term. That's for primary and secondary schools. At the end of each term, you write an exam and then you go on holiday. You write an exam for at the end of the first term and then you go on a holiday. Then you resume again for second term. At the end of the second term, you write another exam and then you go on holiday. And then third term, at the end of the third term, you write another exam. The exam you write at the end of the third term is the promotional exam. That exam, if you do well in it, you move to the next class. Let's say you are in grade one. By the time you write that third term exam and you pass it, you go to grade two. The third term holiday is usually the longest. It runs from July till about September. It's the longest holiday. But here in Sweden, the school year just goes on and it's just one holiday. Of course, they have some little holiday in between, but the major school holiday is just that summer break that runs from June till September. Within the school year in Sweden, the children have the spring break, they have the Easter break, they have the Christmas break, but the major school break is the summer break, which runs for three months. That's the major holiday. So For what I've observed so far, the calendar for Swedish school is just one straight here that has no sprinkles of holiday within it, but the major holiday is the summer holiday. And also in Sweden, there's no culture of after school lessons. You know, in Nigeria, it's a thing. So at the end of the school day, children can stay behind and they'll have extra lessons with their teacher. This one, the parent pays for it personally. It's an agreement between the parents and the teacher. The parent pays the teachers for extra time with their children. The lesson could either take place in the school